Released in 2022, this unlicensed quote-unquote 1/6 scale Cloud from Advent Children is the sequel to VTS Toys' FF7 remake version, which I've also reviewed in 2021. And just to be clear, in today's video, we'll be covering the collector's edition with 2 diorama bases by VTS Toys, and not the deluxe version with Fenrir by Game Toys, which has yet to be released. I know, I'm bummed too. Though if there's anything we've learned from previous videos, it's that there's a lot to like with either brands. But having just said that, I must ironically start with a low point that is the head sculpt. Yes, VTS Toys seems to have reused the exact same portrait as their previous release. So all the stuff that I ranted about before, like that soft and dull expression on Cloud's face, that bulky hair sculpt with those inaccurate spikes, and worst of all, that awkward proportions to the face, have all made a return. It certainly still looks like Cloud, but with Game Toys' phenomenal head sculpt in the competition, I'm a little sad that VTS Toys didn't even bother to step up their game over the last year. The only notable difference I found from the previous version is the slight upgrade in hair color and complexion, but as a result, I'd say the shadow under Cloud's eyes are a bit too heavy this time. Anyways, this costume, also known as Cloudy Wolf, is where we'll see some improvements. But once again, I must start with a strange bit that is the shirt color. It's completely black here, but it's a very dark blue in the movie and even in the promo pics. Though honestly I'm fine with either, as the color seems to change over Cloud's various appearances in this costume. Other than that, the tailoring, pattern, and texture on this shirt are spot on. The collar is a bit on the thick side, but it retains its shape really well, and the zipper in the middle is fully functional. The pauldron on the left shoulder looks really good too, with a rugged texture and that beautiful Fenrir emblem that's biting down on a separate ring. This time, the pauldron is attached to a strap instead of a sculpted protrusion, so it sits much more naturally on the shoulder. The fan brace is made of leather, though I'm not a big fan of how the gloves are sculpted, because the piping and the cuffs should be very tapered, yet they're simply enormous here. The cloth arm guard on the left looks quite good, and the whole thing can actually be removed, but it's a real pain to put back on, so I don't recommend this unless you really like the setup. The arm itself is complete with a ribbon, with no signs of geostigma here, which is fine. VTS also included a van brace on this side too, but I left it off on mine since Cloud never used it in the movie. The series of belts that joins the sword holsters and leg guard are meticulously affixed to the shirt at various points. I can't say the angles of the straps are all that accurate, but they look and work well enough for me. Everything connected by the belts actually slide around quite a bit, which might require some constant and diligent futzing. The holsters are made of soft plastic, and they're beautifully sculpted and layered, with an adjustable lock on each holster. And yes, the individual components of the fusion sword, which we'll see in a second, can all perfectly fit in here. The cloth leg guard is appropriately sized. It's just enough to leave an opening on the waist and cover down the left ankle. It's also loaded with a wide lining on all sides, making it a breeze to get those blustery poses. The pants are appropriately baggy and detailed, with a set of buckles by the ankles that serve no purpose other than lifting the leg openings ever so slightly. And that's how you know this character was designed by Tetsuya Nomura. Sadly, the boots are just a darker recolor of the same pair from the remake version, with none of the muted design as seen in the movie, making these boots the highest on the list of many inaccuracies with this release. And this brings us to the articulations. Like the head sculpts, this super big body is also exactly the same as the previous release, so many of its pros and cons remain. This time around, the pauldron is even less of a hindrance for the shoulder. The seamless arm still can't bend more than 90 degrees, and without the sculpted soldier harness, the torso movement is relatively unencumbered, and the cloth pants that once again retain the full range of motion for the pelvis, legs, and knees. And finally, the atrocious ankle joints are back, sitting well above where the ankles should supposedly be, and they're just as flimsy as last time. With all that said, however, the accessories are why this release shouldn't be entirely glossed over. Starting with Cloud's fusion sword, this beast can actually dis and reassemble exactly like in the movie. It all starts with this main blade, which is complete with some fantastic detailing in the blade fuller, as well as a lengthy textured grip. Next we have the hollow blade. This one looks great and all, but because the handle has to split open during assembly, it is a bit fidgety by itself, though it does fit well in Cloud's hands. Then we have a pair of mirroring back blades, with the proper serrated edges on each. Lastly, we have a pair of mirroring side blades. Each are equipped with a collapsible handle and hilt. And to recreate the fusion sword, start by collapsing the main blade on its sides. Then expand the hinges on the hilt. Insert the hollow blade by snapping the notches in the middle. Clip the back blades together by aligning the magnets. Slip the whole thing over the main blade. Fold up the pair of side blades and stick them to, well, the sides, just above the handguard, and the magnets should do the rest. And voila, all done. I am just blown away by how good this is. Needless to say, you can also set up the sword using whatever combinations as seen in the movie. But do note the combined sword is very heavy, and since the wrist joints aren't super strong, the sword will droop downwards when posed horizontally. And finally, we have Cloud's cell phone, the Panasonic Foma P900 IV, because this was all the rage in 2004. This thing is nicely detailed down to the keypad, with visible buttons even on the sides. And no, this phone doesn't flip sideways, which was a feature Cloud would have made sure you knew if you were around for the movie promos back then. For the collector's edition exclusives, we are starting strong with Zack's rusted Buster Sword, along with a piece of debris from Aerith's church. The sword itself is thoroughly weathered, arguably more so than it did in the movie, but this version is accurate to the FF7 compilation redesign, where the handguard bears this gold and ornate swirling pattern. Size-wise, it's on par with the old Buster Sword and the new Fusion Sword. The base is also a bit ornate, even though the angle and pattern are not quite like the movie. Still though, once you put it together, the imagery is so stunning, it puts a tear in my eyes. Last but not least, we have this hefty diorama base, which might seem like just a chunk of the dilapidated Shinra building, but this thing is more than meets the eyes. It comes with this plastic piece of mangled billboard with a beautifully detailed logo of the Shinra company. The back is equipped with 2 magnetic notches for inserting these 2 equally mangled beams, and the whole thing in turn can be magnetized on the base. The cracks all around the sides are actually slots for the different components of the Fusion Sword. Now keep in mind, the collector's edition is kinda pricey for an unlicensed product, but I'm absolutely taken aback by what VTS is going for with these beautiful set pieces. If you're new to this channel, then brace yourself for the gold standard of size comparisons, Remake Version Cloud by VTS Toys. Since the base body is exactly the same between these 2 releases, Cloud's height at 13.5 inches remains a point of controversy. As usual, this is followed by a few pretty ladies of the FF series by Super Duck, Aerith, Tifa, and Luna Freya. By this figure's reckoning, Cloud is almost 7 feet tall. I'm sure he'll have a blast punching that in Tinder using his cool flip phone. And now comes the obligatory Game Toys Cloud and Sephiroth. This is where the VTS version really starts to pale in comparison, which goes for both the likeness on the head sculpts and the attention to details in the costumes. And since I was running out of ideas for this segment, here are a few shots of the Game Toys Cloud next to the VTS diorama pieces. First is Cloud overlooking Zack's Buster Sword, and here he is, standing over the Fusion Sword base. And I gotta say, they both work really well with this Cloud. So there you have it, the 1/6 scale Collector's Edition Advent Children Cloud by VTS Toys. Almost as if it's like a tradition, VTS's diorama bases are amazing as ever, and their figures are always detailed to the brim, even if set details aren't the most screen accurate. And while the Fusion Sword is beautifully replicated, it's still a bummer that there are no real improvements made to the head sculpt or the figure body. But even if you're in the Game Toys camp, the set pieces from the VTS version might still be worth thinking about. And to be fair, this figure most certainly has that shelf presence. So if you've been collecting the VTS version, this Advent Children Cloud is definitely worth picking up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.